Yoga helps us to find more peace and contentment, more connection to our truest self. And according to the Yoga Sutras, there are 5 obstacles or kleshas that cause suffering and minimize our ability to connect to our truest self. And I would love to chat with you about those kleshas today. My name is Christina Raskin. I'm the founder of Soul Thrive Yoga. And here at Soul Thrive Yoga, we are passionate about all of these amazing tips and tools, this wisdom of the yoga practice and how it helps us to transform our lives, not only on the mat, but also off the mat in our daily lives. So these 5 kleshas or obstacles, you could also think of them as causes of suffering. The very first one is ignorance, and really all the other ones are grown out of ignorance. Yoga believes that we are a divine being having a human experience. So I am not defined by this body, my personality, my political beliefs, my nationality, my race, my thoughts, my emotions. All of that's actually not who I am. I'm a divine being having a human experience. And when I don't realize that, I'm ignorant, according to yoga. Ignorance is not understanding reality as it really is. And yoga would say the reality is that we're divine beings. All of us are divine beings. You're a divine being. They're a divine being. We're all divine beings having this human experience, living in this avatar for now. If I don't understand that, I'm ignorant. Another way that ignorance is defined within the Yoga Sutras, which is an ancient yoga text that we go through in the 200-hour yoga teacher training program, but we also go into it in our Yoga Sutra elective. But the Yoga Sutras also define ignorance as regarding the impermanent as permanent. So thinking that this is permanent, that Christina is permanent. Also regarding the impure as pure, regarding the painful as painless. Great example of that is alcohol, thinking it's painless when it's really painful, or regarding the painful as pleasurable. Alcohol is pleasurable when it's really painful. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be drinking alcohol. There's no judgment in yoga. It's just that when we don't realize that this causes us pain or suffering, we're being ignorant. That's all. It's just a realization, no judgment in that. So this is ignorance, the first klesha. The next klesha is born out of that, and that is ego. Ego is how I define myself. Christina, the yoga teacher that lives in this body, that lives in Vancouver, an American Canadian, all of those things, my gender, my sexual orientation, all of those things that I identify as, that's my ego. And sometimes in spiritual circles, you'll hear them say things like slay your ego, as if the ego is bad. It's not bad. We need an ego. We need a personality. We need qualities. We need traits, political beliefs. All of that is part of this human experience. And really, at the root, yoga is about enjoying and really diving into this human experience as much as we possibly can. So it's not that the ego is bad, but it can become an obstacle to our connection and our peace when we identify with it. When I forget that I'm a divine being and I am ignorant of that fact and I identify as Christina, the yoga teacher, then we can have pain and suffering. When those things change, because they will, when you lose the house you're living in or the relationship that you think identifies you, or the political beliefs change, anything like that, we can have this identity crisis, right? Who am I? And that's that suffering that can come from the ego. Those are the first 2 kleshas. The next klesha, attachment. When I am really identified as a certain ego, a certain persona, that's my story. And anything that supports that story, I attach to. Attachment. I hoard things that I like. Life situations that identify me the way I think I am, I attach onto those things. And could be a cause of suffering because nothing stays the same, right? So I identify as Christina, the job title, whatever that is. And then when that changes, that causes me suffering. So it's attachment, holding on or trying to hoard things. And then the next one is aversion. That's the next klesha, pushing other things away. So you can think of attachment and aversion as 2 sides of the same coin. Because I identify as my ego, and I think this is who I am, that's my story that I've created, according to yoga. I attach to things that support that story and things that I like. and I push away other things that I don't like, things that don't support my story. We can see this a lot in the political world right now. I identify as a certain political belief and I attach to that. And somebody who has a different political belief, I identify them as that political belief, and I'm adverse to them and their beliefs. Instead of realizing that we're both divine beings having this human experience. It doesn't mean that you don't speak up and have an opinion, of course. It doesn't mean that you disagree with people, that you don't ever disagree. It just means that it'll cause us suffering if we identify only as the ego and if we do attachment and aversion based on that. And then the last klesha, our last obstacle, is clinging to bodily life, not wanting to die. And it's said in the Yoga Sutras that this is a strong one, even for people who are enlightened, even for people who are really connected to who they are. They still want to live. They're still attached to this body. So these 5 kleshas or obstacles help to block our connection to our truest self. And when we notice that we're doing any of these 5 obstacles, ignorance, ego, attachment, aversion, or clinging to bodily life, there are many different ways to help remove those. But one of the main ways is to melt it back into the first one, ignorance. Realize I'm being ignorant here. I'm not seeing reality as it is. I'm forgetting that I'm a divine being. And I need to identify back with that. And I'm forgetting that that person's a divine being, and that person's a divine being, and that person. And I need to come back to that. So if you're interested in any of this, you can join me for the 200-hour yoga teacher training or our sutra elective and learn more of these amazing nuggets of wisdom that help us to be more at peace, more connected, to hear our inner voice. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I really, truly want to hear your questions.